going on.
Thank you so much.
Feel like $1 million.
Shout out TMZ, you up?
Let me check out that rig.
TMZ stands for the Mayweather Zone.
How'd you find me, bro? I got my disguise on.
I love my TMZ family.
Welcome to TMZ Sports. I'm Mike Babcock with my guy, as always, Mojo Muhtadi. Mojo, we're going to start with the New York Knicks, who are on the verge of a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals. Mojo, thanks to an absolutely massive win Monday night over the Boston Celtics at Madison Square Garden. Mojo, the New York Knicks end up winning the game 121-113. Of course, Jason Tatum, who is a six-time NBA All-Star and one of the best players in this league, he unfortunately goes down right there on that play, Mojo, with what we are all anticipating is going to be a very serious injury. A lot of people think it could be an Achilles, a rupture, but at this point, as we sit here and tape on Tuesday afternoon, we have not yet received official word. So obviously you hope Jason Tatum's okay. At that point, Mojo, the game was already, it was a done deal. The Knicks were up 7. They were winning that game. And this was such a massive game, Mojo. Of course, during the regular season, the Knicks lost all 4 of their games with the Celtics. And then in this series, everybody picking against New York, and they take games 1 and 2, Mojo. In Boston, game 3 at the Garden, the Knicks are beaten pretty thoroughly. And I think a lot of people at that point said, okay, now the Celtics, they know how to play this thing. They've been woken up, and they are going to come back. And then last night, Celtics get off to a big start, Mojo. They lead in the first quarter, double-digit lead. And then the Knicks storm back in the second half, thanks to a superhuman effort by Jalen Brunson. Scores 39 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, just made every big shot. OG Anunoby, big game. Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, all those guys chipped in. And again, now the Knicks are on the verge, 1 win away, potentially on Wednesday, from going to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they, Mojo, will either face the Pacers or the Cavs. Now, we've got to talk about this crowd because as exciting as everything was on the court, Mojo, I think it was probably hard for a lot of the other fans in the building to keep their eyes off of Celebrity Row because there were so many big stars in the building last night, Mojo. I mean, Kylie Jenner, Timothée Chalamet, who is a massive, massive Knicks fan, and we will talk about Timothy in just a second here. Cardi B and Stefon Diggs, who obviously has been linked to Cardi B. We've talked about them a couple of times here on the show, Mojo. They, I think, make the hard launch in their relationship last night. They sit courtside there showing a little bit of PDA. They looked very much into each other. They were in the building last night. Spike Lee, of course, Tracy Morgan, Ben Stiller, Tina Fey in the house, Michael J. Fox, and Mojo. The list just goes on and on of the big. There were so many celebrities there; they couldn't even fit along, the courtside. They actually had to sit along the baseline there. Bad Bunny in the house there too. Kendall Jenner in the building. Mojo. I mean, this was just absolutely massive amount of fans or celebrities in the house last night. One really cool moment featuring that guy, Timothée Chalamet. Mojo. Timothée Chalamet shared a photograph after the game, showing a moment from a long time ago, a decade and a half ago. Look at him. There is 14-year-old Timothée Chalamet getting his jersey signed by Amar'e Stoudemire. Amar'e Stoudemire, who at the time was the superstar on the Knicks, Mojo. Well, what do you know? Last night, they actually reunited. There's Amar'e on the big screen. Amar'e and Timothy reunited. How cool is that? Again, something like 15 years later. We had an opportunity a little bit earlier today to talk to Amar'e Stoudemire about how cool that moment was.
That was awesome, man. I mean, that's when I first signed with the Knicks. I was a producer of the Broadway show called The Rock of Ages, and I was leaving out of that show, and I met young Timothy then, and then to see him now, as a successful actor, as he's doing with his beautiful career, it was great to see that full circle moment.
What was the conversation like? What you guys got to reunite, I guess, last night at MSG?
Yeah, we just chatted about the time that we met back when I first signed with the Knicks and what the year it was and the atmosphere in that moment and how much of a fan he is of me. And I shared the same words to him, how much of a fan I am for him. And it was good to see him and all these things. So it was definitely a great time to reconnect.
You obviously played, and Spike Lee was the guy then. It seems like Timothée Chalamet might be becoming the biggest hardcore Knicks fan, or at least of the next generation. Do you see it that way? He's pretty hardcore.
No, he's hardcore. No, for sure. He's like the next Spike Lee when it comes to, like, Knicks diehard fans. You know what I'm saying? And we appreciate that, because as players, we play our hearts out. We give the game our everything. And then see fans who really appreciate that goes a long way. So, yeah, he's the next one in line for sure.
Goodness gracious, Babcock. Stoudemire saying that Chalamet is the new Spike Lee? I mean, is that a greater superlative than anything this guy has accomplished on the silver screen? I mean, that is a statement. I mean, you think about the prototype fans of all these other franchises. I mean, one of them is a guy named Clipper Darrell, and Clipper is in that man's name. I mean, that's how big of a deal this is. So for Chalamet, what a statement. And I gotta say, Babcock, maybe the guy deserves it, considering the fact that he literally skipped the Met Gala to not only go to the game, he didn't even go to the game, he just watched it in his hotel room. So I don't know, man. I guess we got to give this guy his flowers at this point. And I'd say that's a pretty good testimonial right there.
I agree, Mojo. I was going to bring up the Met Gala if you didn't. I think he may have surpassed Spike Lee just because, and fine, I give Spike credit, he had on some Knicks gear at the Met Gala, but the fact that Timothée said, I'm not going to that fancy party, I'm going to watch this thing on my laptop from the hotel screen. He is a real deal, legit Knicks fan. They both are. They both love the Knicks as much as you possibly ever could. The one thing I'll say, Mojo, as we're showing video as you and I are talking, is there anybody in the world on a bigger heater than Timothée Chalamet? As I look at him sitting next to Kylie Jenner, only one who had a better night than the New York Knicks. That man right there. All right, Lucas, moving on to an absolutely massive story out of Major League Baseball. Pete Rose is no longer banned from baseball. 3.5 decades after Major League Baseball Commissioner Bart Giamatti banned Rose, banned the Hit King for betting on baseball games, he is now back reinstated less than a year after his death. Of course, as we know, Lucas, Pete Rose passed away in late September 2024. And after that, his family had really pushed Major League Baseball to undo this ban. And obviously, with the undoing of the ban, that would then make Rose eligible to be voted on for the Baseball Hall of Fame. It doesn't mean he's going to be inducted, but it does mean he is eligible. It wasn't just the family asking, Lucas. It was also President Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who had a friendly relationship with Pete over the years, really went to bat after Pete passed away and after Trump took back office. And he said, look, baseball needs to act. And we'll finally today, Lucas, through Rob Manfred, of course, the current Major League Baseball commissioner, they make the big announcement.
Yes, and this is massive news. A lot of people talking about this. And Rob Manfred explained this in a letter to Mr. Rose's attorney, as he referred to him in his statement, saying, look, the whole point of Rule 21, which was the rule that kept Pete Rose out of baseball, is to protect the integrity of the game. And he said, quite obviously, once a player passes away, they are no longer a threat to the integrity of the game. And so therefore, I've made that conclusion that, this is how we're going to interpret this rule moving forward. And Pete Rose is obviously the most biggest name here, and especially the most recent, because he passed just back in September.
So are there other guys, Lucas?
16 others, and most famously, Shoeless Joe Jackson and several of his teammates because of the 1919 World Series that they infamously fixed.
Right, so the Black Sox scandal, which probably is, honestly, the biggest scandal in the entire sports history. Maybe the biggest scandal in American professional sports history. It was that big. It's obviously more than 100 years ago at this point. But that's big news, Lucas.
Yes, it is. And people are starting to wonder, though, what Pete would actually think of this, because he has stated in the past, look, if you don't want me in when I'm alive, I don't want to be in after my death.
Wow.
But we do know that Pete Rose's family sincerely wanted this for him and believed that he deserved it no matter what. So take it as you may, but a lot of baseball fans wish this would have been done sooner, that he would have been able to experience, getting into Cooperstown. He rightfully deserved it. Say what you want about him and the things that he did when he was a manager, but he's the hit king. He's one of the greatest to ever step on a baseball diamond, and well deserving of being in Cooperstown, and he'll be eligible in a few years based on the rules that they have in place. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to open their doors to Pete Rose.
Yeah, that's I think is the most fascinating question, Lucas. At the end of the day, the writers have a say here, and I'm very curious to see if ultimately they say to themselves, we still don't think that Pete should be eligible, so we're not going to vote for him. Like you said, at the end of the day, if this is just off of his talents and his ability and his career on the baseball field, there are not many people out there, if anybody, that is more deserving to be in the Hall of Fame than Pete Rose. He was that amazing as a baseball player. We, though, will see. I don't think this is automatic, Lucas, that he gets into the Hall. Obviously, he had no chance before. Now he does. This is a big moment for Pete Rose and for all of baseball. Coming up next in TMZ Sports, with less than a 2% chance of landing the first pick in the NBA draft, a Mavericks miracle. They got it. Wait until you see the reaction of embattled general manager Nico Harrison. This is the guy that was killed for the Luka Doncic trade. That's next. Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Mike and Lucas. For all of the talk, for as many times as they were absolutely destroyed by fans, by the media, well, the Dallas Mavericks, they needed some good news desperately, and boy, did they ever get it, Lucas, on Monday night. So, the NBA playoffs, not the only thing happening last night. The NBA draft lottery also took place, and we finally found out who would get that very coveted first pick. Of course, Cooper Flagg from Duke is sitting out there, Lucas. A lot of people think he is a generational talent who would change any team that he went to. So who was going to land that first pick and obviously then land Flagg? Well, yeah, it's the Dallas Mavericks. Lucas, Nico Harrison, of course, the guy who traded Luka Doncic, and he, as much as anybody, needed some good news, and he could not have looked any more relieved and just ecstatic last night when he found out that, yep, he'd be picking number one. Here's Nico Harrison last night.
Second pick will be made by
Those asses looked incredibly happy, Lucas. No, this is big news. Obviously, they said the number 2 pick goes to San Antonio, meaning the Mavericks get the number 1 pick. And there's a lot of good players in the draft, but I think and who knows what the NBA careers of all these guys ends up looking like. But as we sit here right now, Lucas, the coveted pick was Cooper Flagg, and they badly needed this, Lucas. And they had a 1.8% chance. It's not like they had overwhelming odds to land the first pick. They didn't, but they ended up there anyway.
Right, 1.8% chance, which means Nico did not have this in his cards at all, or in his prediction as to how things were going to go. It's like, oh yeah, trade away Luka, and then we get Cooper Flagg. No, this was absolutely out of nowhere, but this made everyone put on their tinfoil hats and be like, the NBA is rigged, here we go.
Yeah.
Like, they trade away Luka, and they get rewarded for it.
Right, to the biggest franchise, Lucas, right? You trade Luka to the LA Lakers, the most premier franchise in the NBA. And now they get the number 1 pick miraculously.
Right.
I don't buy into it, but that's what everyone's saying. Even players are saying that.
That like Adam Silver is rewarding them because he wants the Lakers to do so well and everything. But let's all remember that this would be considered fraud, and like everyone involved would get absolutely destroyed by the hand of the law. So,
Lucas, we just talked about major scandals in professional sports. Like, that would be near the top of the list if that were to ever happen. And it might actually, like, take the NBA out. That's how serious of an issue this would be. So I don't buy into it. I think it's just pure coincidence. But it is a heck of a coincidence. It really is. And now I think and tell me if I'm wrong here, Lucas, the Mavericks have already said they have no plans on trying to trade this pick away, not for anybody, not for Giannis Antetokounmpo, not for any other NBA superstars out there.
Not for Luka?
Imagine that. Which would effectively mean they would have traded Cooper Flagg for Anthony Davis, which I don't think that's the trade they want to make. So I think, Luka's going to stay in LA, and Cooper Flagg will soon be wearing that Dallas Mavericks jersey. Stay tuned for that. Former NBA All-Star Zack Randolph being investigated for domestic violence. The very latest on the probe when TMZ Sports returns right after this. Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Mike, Mojo, and Edward. Guys, we talked about the NBA a little bit earlier in the show. Now let's talk about a former NBA star who has seemingly found himself in some hot water with law enforcement in Los Angeles. We are talking about longtime NBA pro Zack Randolph, who for 17 years was one of the best offensive players in the NBA. But again, Ed, has now found himself in some trouble in Los Angeles.
Yeah, according to our law enforcement sources, Zack Randolph and a woman were involved in some kind of altercation back in 2024, September of 2024. The woman, according to our sources, alleges that the two got in some kind of argument that turned physical. She claims, again, according to our sources, that Randolph hit her or put his hands on her, and she apparently has photos of the injury she sustained at his hands. We do not know a whole lot more else about the allegation. We've reached out multiple times to Zack to get his side of the story, and we have not heard back yet. But cops have said they've taken a domestic violence report, and they're probing the matter. No arrests have been made. And again, Zack Randolph is not guilty of anything. There's been no charges or anything like that. But this is what we are hearing from law enforcement sources.
It's just an investigation at this point, but it's a serious claim, and cops need to do their due diligence. It's obviously something we will continue to follow. We will see if there are arrests made, if there are charges brought in the case. As of right now, though, just a police investigation. Stay tuned. Sports Illustrated reveals their 2025 swimsuit cover models. A 59-year-old actress and one of the biggest stars in all of sports, among those to get the nod. Find out who next on TMZ Sports.
Want to listen to today's show? Now you can check us out on the go with the all-new TMZ Sports podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and listen. Whereas always, tomorrow's show will be the best show since today!
Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Mike and Lucas. Lucas, today was one of my favorite days of the year. It's the day that we found out who would grace the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. This year, like they've done in years past, Lucas, there are not one, not two, or three models, but four models. One of them, Lucas, and she looks as good as any of these other models, is 58-year-old Salma Hayek. Lucas, who, look at her, stunning. Salma Hayek, aging like fine wine, Lucas. She has been one of the hottest actresses in Hollywood for decades, and ain't nothing changed, Lucas. Look, incredible. You've got Livy Dunn, who is 22 years old. You've got Olympian Jordan Childs, 24 years old, as some of the other cover models. And again, Salma's near 60 years old, but
yes, and they're trending to do this in recent years, to where they find someone who comes out of left field, and when they announced that it was Salma Hayek, no one was upset by any means. You have Livy, who has been in the publication several years in the past now. Lauren Chan as well, and then Jordan Childs, making her debut and getting that cover. I mean, everyone covets that. We talked to Camille Kostick in the past and all these other models who, say this is like such an honor. This is a milestone moment. And to see all four of them, and MJ Day, who's the editor-in-chief of SI Swim, said all four of them embody exactly what we're all about in such a wonderful way. And naturally, they were all freaking out about this whole honor. But the night before, it was just as cool as for other models as well, who went to the Mets game and showed off that their bodies also include their arms because they threw the first pitch.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they absolutely did. And Livy Dunn was also at the game, but that was to catch her boyfriend Paul Skeens' pitch for the Pirates.
I was going to say, she might have a little unfair advantage there, right? As her boyfriend is one of the best pitchers in all base. Look, so those are pretty good throws.
Yeah, she couldn't throw on the Mets jersey. She just couldn't, couldn't do that. Support
that would
the
be
enemy.
Cheating.
But Camille and two others, they were very happy to be there and the stars of the show until the Mets got the big win. So.
Yeah, hey, look, the Mets are having a really great year. Obviously, they added Juan Soto in the offseason with that massive, massive contract, but they are playing really well ahead of a Subway Series, by the way. That's about to go down in just a few days here. They were really good. First pitch is very good. A lot better than some celebrities we've seen. I'm trying to think of ones that have been like all-time terrible throws. 50 Cent comes to mind.
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor. That was horrible. I think, if anything, we had a pass ball there. I think that was a bad job by the catcher. I don't put that on the models, Lucas. Also,
I will never blame them.
Right. They couldn't do anything wrong in our eyes. Also, I think there is a cachet to landing this cover, or even just being in the magazine, Lucas. That is still one of the really awesome accomplishments if you're a model out there. I think this is like, if you're a quarterback, it's winning the Super Bowl. I think if you're a model, SI swimsuit issue, that's it. Congratulations to all four of these women, to all the women who were in the magazine. And Salma Hayek, like, what are you eating? Incredible. All right, I mean, it's really interesting now to see who they pick, and it's like they've got an interesting model that you might not expect out of left field to go with a baseball pun there every single year. They look awesome. We'll see who they pick next year. We're out of time. Lucas, got a bunch of basketball, a lot of things going to be decided over the next couple of days here as we get these conference championship games series set. Lucas, everyone have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm a lawyer.